Good morning. Again, my name is Chris Rengillian, William Mary class of 2005. I want to start with a fun fact. Dan Crystal, who you just heard from, was my freshman biology teacher. I serve as the Associate Vice President for Health and Wellness, and I hope you'll allow me to join the thunderous chorus of all who say, welcome to William and Mary, and most importantly, you belong. In this very moment, you are exactly where you are meant to be, so let's begin. Beginning in their first few days on campus and continuing through the next 4 years or so, during their time at William & Mary, your students will learn about an integrative approach to wellness. At the heart of this approach is the concept of flourishing in 8 dimensions: physical, occupational, intellectual, financial, emotional and mental, environmental, spiritual, and social wellness. These dimensions are interconnected and mutually reinforcing. What do we mean? That wellness and the pursuit of growth in each of these areas is worthwhile, and that growth in any one area tends to support wellness and growth in the other dimensions. If we scan across the board, each of us will discover that we're already doing something right in at least one of these areas. Building resilience and flourishing for a lifetime demands that we take an integrative approach, an approach that pays attention to each dimension consciously, self-directed, through active choices, holistic, evolving. In healthy communities, an integrative approach to wellness also emphasizes opportunity, offering multiple entry points to engage across a full continuum of health promotion, prevention, and intervention. This looks like mentored and guided learning experiences, classroom education, and open workshops, adventures, opportunities to play, peer support, coaching, opportunities to seek help without stigma, clinical care, emergency systems and coordinated crisis response, public messages and culture, physical spaces and environment designed for well-being, and the ability to contribute back to your community. At William & Mary, every department, office, program, or resource that supports student wellness is linked to at least one of the 8 dimensions. The integrated approach is also reflected in the organizational structure of my area, which is the health and wellness thematic area. Situated within the Division of Student Affairs, as Heather mentioned, health and wellness unites 4 departments: campus recreation, health promotion, the counseling center, and the student health center. You'll have opportunities to hear from campus leaders and team members from each of these departments at the resource fair and in sessions this afternoon. But let's take a quick tour. The McLeod-Tyler Wellness Center is located in the heart of the Student Life neighborhood. It's home to the Office of Health Promotion, the Counseling Center, and the Student Health Center. It's designed for visitors, and I encourage you to come visit. When you enter, you can expect to be welcomed by a student wellness ambassador. Students, as you can see here, hang out or eat lunch in one of the Adirondack chairs on the porch all the time. Or they can choose to relax or study in the open atrium lobby, take a class in one of the fitness and wellness studios, book an appointment for massage or acupuncture, find a mindful moment in a private meditation alcove, or just outside. Across campus is the B. McLeod Recreation Center, the primary home of campus recreation. Here, students might visit the gym, climb the rock wall, go for a swim. They might join an intramural team or one of 49 active sport clubs. They also quickly discover that health and wellness can't be contained in 4 walls. Virtually every beloved site on campus is a venue for health and wellness, and often far beyond. I might be going off book here, but we're also going to take a tour beyond my area. And here's what you need to know. The William & Mary commitment to student wellness and flourishing is integrative in the sense that it's woven into the fabric of the university. This diagram depicts an organizational chart just for the Division of Student Affairs. Student wellness resources are distributed across this map. I'll highlight just a few. We don't have time for me to cover them all. But campus living serves as a major channel for health education and health promotion, where orientation aides and resident assistants are trusted messengers and community partners who connect students to wellness resources. Offices that play key roles in student conduct hold students accountable to community expectations, and they emphasize opportunities to restore integrity and repair relationships over punishment. In the thematic area of student success, you'll find the Office of Academic Wellbeing that advances our mission through resources like the Tutor Zone and Success Coaching, in addition to student accessibility services and care support services, which is the receiving office and hub for coordinated support around the real-life concerns that arise for students during their time at William & Mary. Things like needing to take significant time away from school, loss of a loved one, housing, or food insecurity. Beyond this map, the work of advancing student wellness is distributed across the university, from the Division of Public Safety to the relationships that faculty form with students, just like you heard about from Shelley and Dan, through classroom teaching, advising, and service. Okay, now that we've established, or at least taken a sample of how the commitment to wellness is integrated throughout the university, it's time for me to share a few parent and family pro tips. We're gonna shift from a big programmatic picture to some nuggets of information that you can literally keep in your back pocket. I'm going to present you with some QR codes. They are like Pokemon. See if you can catch them all. First, the Student Health Center provides a full range of primary care services. It's open during business hours, Monday through Friday. What happens if something comes up outside of business hours? In Williamsburg, we coexist in a healthcare ecosystem with specialty providers, urgent care, emergency medical services, and hospitals. We've logged after-hours care resources for students and for you. Bookmark the after-hours care resource page and keep it handy just in case for the concerns that keep you up at night. This, maybe not right now, but this weekend is also an excellent time to check your student's health insurance carrier to see if they provide 24/7 access to telehealth services. Share this with your student and encourage them to walk through the steps needed to access it. It is so much easier to learn how to sign on, register, and book a visit when you're feeling well than when you're feeling tired and sick. The Student Health Center is also home to an outpatient pharmacy. This is a convenient option for your students' prescription needs. There are a couple of exclusions. The pharmacy doesn't carry controlled substances and can't carry some specialty medications, but for most medications, they can be obtained here, and more information can be found on the pharmacy webpage through the QR code. The Counseling Center offers outreach services, individual therapy, group therapy, and urgent and crisis evaluations. What can you do if you believe that your student would benefit from counseling, but you're not sure how to begin? Well, the Counseling Center has created a guide for parents and guardians, and also, seriously here, they welcome calls from parents and guardians who are concerned about their students. They're happy to provide coaching and to troubleshoot and join with you along the way. Contact information and a guide that I mentioned can be found on the Counseling Center webpage. Students also have 24/7 access to virtual and telemental health support through Timely Care. This includes immediate emotional and mental health support, the ability to schedule ongoing counseling, and psychiatry. Students maintain access to Timely Care, this is important, through breaks and through travel. You can find more information about Timely Care here. We also encourage students to download the app and register during orientation and at key follow-up opportunities. Again, knowing that it's way easier to take these steps proactively and to become familiar with resources and the steps involved in accessing care. All right, let's go deeper. And as we do that, it's time I told you a little bit more about myself. So as I mentioned, I'm from the William & Mary class of 2005. Dan Crystal was my freshman biology teacher. That becomes relevant in a little while. I was a walk-on member of the men's gymnastics team for all 4 years. I wanted to study everything. I decided ultimately to major in government, but unofficially I minored in religious studies. And thanks to people like Dan Crystal, I just kept taking science classes. Toward the end of my 4 years here, I recognized two things. First, that during my time at William & Mary, something awesome happened. I had experienced profound positive personal development. I wasn't alone. I saw the same in my peers. I wanted to understand how it happened, and someday I wanted to be able to pay it forward. The second thing I realized was that my calling was to become a physician. So I went to medical school, and my fascination with development led me to become a pediatrician. And then I chose to go deeper into two fields. I discovered that what I loved most was taking care of adolescents and young adults, so I completed a fellowship in adolescent medicine, and I also realized the key role that athletics had played in my own development, so I completed a fellowship in sports medicine. I became a faculty member at the very School of Medicine where I studied and an attending physician at one of the greatest children's hospitals in the country. Sometimes I say galaxy just to embellish it. As a sports medicine doctor and a specialist in adolescent and young adult health, I got to practice medicine on playing fields, in athletic training rooms, in shelters for young people experiencing homelessness, and through street outreach. I got to teach medical students and residents in specialty clinics and at the bedside of patients in the hospital. I got to hang out with brilliant researchers and policy experts, and I spent many nights awake in intensive care units. In professions that serve young people in all of these spaces, one of the things we know from facts, but also viscerally, is that the health and development of young people is built on the health of communities. And it was a desire to contribute to and shape the health of communities that ultimately led me to school health and back to William & Mary. In my career as a physician and in roles that I've held, I often encounter the question, what is wellness? It's not happiness. It's not the relaxed state we feel when we're on vacation. Wellness is something much more expansive than that. We can be well, and our wellness can contain grief or righteous anger as well as happiness. Wellness can also hold moments of exhilaration, of effort, and even stress. In this way, I've grown to think of wellness not as a state or a mood, but more as a capacity. It is the capacity to hold, to withstand, to navigate and resolve the challenges that life brings. It's also a capacity to reach and grab joy, meaning, and fulfillment along the way. Remembering that I'm a former athlete and a sports medicine doc, I've grown to think of wellness more like a muscle than a mood. So let's get nerdy for a moment and take that analogy a little bit further. Perhaps you've seen an image like this before. This is a cross-section of skeletal muscle under a microscope. The pink color comes from a common staining technique that makes the components more visible. Each of these pink blobs represents the cross-section of a microscopic filament called a myofibril. Each myofibril has the ability to contract, to exert force, or to withstand tension. Myofibrils are bundled together into muscle fibers, which are bundled together further into fascicles, which are bundled together to form a complete muscle. And in our analogy, where wellness is a muscle, I like to think that every strength and ability a young person possesses is a fiber. Just like we're born with muscles, we're each born and endowed with certain strengths and abilities. We recruit others over time, interconnected, mutually reinforcing. And it's the adding and bundling together of our strengths and abilities that enables us to move through the world, a dance, holding tension, reaching for good things, just as I've described. One of the things that's exciting about microscopy is that you can use a variety of staining techniques, and these techniques can help to clarify and distinguish between fibers. Each technique brings forward a different kaleidoscope of distinct fibers, revealing that muscles do what they are meant to do best by bundling together fibers with a range of characteristics. So what if we could take a cross-section of wellness and look at it under a microscope? The 8 dimensions of flourishing is one way to think broadly about the different strengths and abilities that contribute to the capacity for wellness. Here's another perspective. Over the past several decades, child development experts and researchers ask big questions about what assets young people need to overcome challenges, to be protected from risks, to be resilient, and to thrive. Their research led to the development of the 7 C's, the official model of the American Academy of Pediatrics. Let's go through them. First, connection. The single most important factor in a young person's life that will determine whether or not they'll be resilient and thrive is whether or not they are connected to at least one caring, competent adult. Ideally, this is their parent. When it is, other adults become additive. When it can't be their parent, other adults become essential and can move to the center. Over the course of a lifetime, other authentic, caring connections bring added value and protection. Confidence is the spark that enables us to begin, renew, and sustain our efforts. It can be earned, and it grows as young people learn to trust their capabilities. Competence is about possessing the knowledge and skills required to navigate the world and meet challenges. Character involves recognizing the perspective of others, self-awareness, a sense of values, and the ability to make choices that respect and express them. Contribution. Young people are poised to make contributions to their communities. Through their contributions, they learn to see the value they add. By helping others, they also learn that receiving help isn't a sign of failure or a source of shame. It can be a source of mutual benefit and pride. Coping. Young people who learn to cope effectively are better prepared to overcome life's challenges. The best protection against self-defeating behaviors may be to possess a wide range of positive coping strategies. And control. Control is about understanding what is and what is not within our power. It's equally about having the skills to maintain or regain control of our thoughts, attention, emotions, and actions when they are challenged. Interconnected, mutually reinforcing. Each of these assets is good on its own, but they come with great benefits. The more of these assets a young person possesses, the more likely they are to avoid risks, to be resilient, and to thrive. Now, before we move on, there's one more thing I'll observe about the notion that wellness is a muscle. In the same way that a muscle becomes stronger, we recruit new strengths through challenges, through episodes of exertion, by stretching ourselves, reaching for new limits. Yes, this involves short-term fatigue. And this all goes well as long as we're not pushed beyond our limits. Just like a muscle, we need cycles of rest, replenishment, playfulness, and the things that feel good for real growth to occur. There's something I said earlier, and it's worth repeating, that one of the things we know is that the health and development of young people is built on the health of communities. But communities and culture aren't always aligned to meet the needs of young people. So what are we up against? For a few minutes, let's focus on the forces that undermine human development. First, I want to talk about low expectations. Let's start with a scenario, and this is something that may have actually happened to you 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe even last week. I want you to imagine that you're in the grocery store. You turn to the soup can aisle, and you run into an acquaintance. This is someone you've met, but you're just getting to know. You strike up a friendly conversation, and at a natural point, you mention that you are the parent of a teenager. Pop quiz. Now that you've said the word teenager, what's the first word or thought that comes to mind for your new acquaintance? I've presented this scenario to large groups many times before, and these are the responses I hear. The one that jumps out to me most, yikes. The bottom line is that our culture communicates low expectations for adolescents and young adults all the time. These messages come in the form of negative stereotypes, misapprehensions, and crisis language. So what do young people hear? They hear that they are semi-broken, that they are a burden, that they are to be feared, that they are worth less. And a culture of low expectations robs kids of the intergenerational connections they need to thrive. It steals their confidence. It undervalues their genuine competence, and it carries out theft of the knowledge that they are poised to contribute to their communities. Some young people learn that they can distance themselves from low expectations if they meet certain conditions. And here I want to credit the work of the brilliant journalist and author Jennifer Breheny Wallace, whose work, Never Enough, is pictured here. What Wallace does is, through countless interviews with students, young people, parents, and research experts, she provides a detailed account of something called achievement culture. Achievement culture involves an intense and unrelenting pressure to excel. It relies on ideas and expectations that are so common they can be almost invisible, like the air we breathe. And through her work, Jenny Wallace makes the invisible visible. She writes, "What emerged from my research hit me like an ice bath. Our kids are absorbing the idea that their worth is contingent on their performance, not for who they are deep at their core. They feel they only matter to the adults in their lives, their peers, the larger community, if they are successful." And achievement culture tends to define success narrowly: the right image, the right school, the right job. So young people hear that their connections, confidence, and contributions are all teetering on a narrow range of outcomes that they don't fully control. This is an incredibly unstable foundation on which to build a life. And in extreme forms, this intense pressure also leaves no space for other things that young people need to thrive: all exertion, no recovery. Not surprisingly, achievement culture has been linked to increased rates of anxiety, depression, burnout, and stress that exceeds our capacity to cope in healthy ways. I also want to acknowledge that there is some nuance here. Of course, we want young people to learn the value of effort. We want them to develop competencies, to sharpen their skills, to reach for excellence in ways that are aligned with their capabilities. But what achievement culture does is it takes all the three-dimensional, wonderful, whole things about what it means to be a human, and it flattens them to a resume. It reduces the multidimensional nature of our well-being to grades, awards, rankings, and other externally visible markers of success. So when our kids are hearing the loudest message that their value, their worth, is contingent on resume values, we need to double down on recognizing them for everything else that we care about. Third, I want to talk briefly about the epidemic of isolation. Here I want to credit the works of people like the political scientist Robert Putnam, whose book Bowling Alone came out in 2000 and shaped much of my education in government here at William & Mary, as well as the Surgeon General Advisory from 2023. What do we know? Since the 1950s, America has experienced a decades-long trend involving decreased engagement that can be seen across all facets of civic and community life. From bowling leagues to places of worship and civic organizations, we've become less likely to talk to our neighbors to form the social bonds that create community. This trend accelerated over the past decade, with our changing digital landscape and the COVID-19 pandemic as probable contributors. Today, a striking number of Americans report experiencing loneliness and isolation. Young people are particularly vulnerable. As human beings, we are built to thrive on connection, but the absence of meaningful connections is poisonous to our health. To put a pin on it, the Surgeon General's advisory highlighted the stunning discovery that isolation is as harmful to our physical health, as likely to cause cardiovascular disease and stroke, and to shorten our life as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So, low expectations, achievement culture, isolation. I group these forces together because they are undermining to the development of young people. From an integrative perspective, and as a pediatrician, I also know that they're linked to the kinds of adversity that cause toxic stress, the kind of stress that makes us physically sick and steals life from us. I also group them together because their impact is preventable if we respond to them, and they can be overcome by a common response. In her own work, Jenny Wallace identified a feature that distinguished a group of healthy high achievers from high achievers or achievers who suffered harm from achievement culture. And what she found was that the healthy high achievers possessed a strong sense of mattering. She does a beautiful job of summarizing what mattering means. She defines it as the understanding that you are valued, not for what you produce, but for who you are. And that you add value, most of all through your presence, by showing up, and sure, also through your time and talents. Here I also want to build on the work of my predecessor here at William & Mary, the psychologist Kelly Crace, who developed the authentic excellence model. And what Kelly would say is that mattering also means you have values, that even when no one is looking, you have something to stand for. Here's the big message. Your child is about to receive a big dose of mattering. The first and loudest message that young people receive here: you belong. At the alma mater of the nation, a place that transcends the boundaries between research and teaching, teaching and learning, learning and living, a place that convenes great minds and hearts to meet the most pressing needs of our time, committed to the values of belonging, curiosity, excellence, flourishing, integrity, respect, and service, a place where an integrative view of your wellness is woven into the fabric of the community. The translation: you are valued, you add value, and you're capable of possessing and expressing values. In other words, you matter. Through an integrative perspective, I also want to remind you that you are an important part of this work. As parents and family members, you have superpowers that make this possible. First, I want you to remember the single most important factor in a young person's life that determines if they'll navigate life's challenges and flourish is connection. The transition to college is a window of opportunity to create and strengthen a lifelong connection that is powerfully protective. If the connection you have with your young person has been under stress, if it hasn't developed in the way you hoped, I want you to know that the transition to college can offer opportunities to reset, reinforce, and recreate. I also want to share the idea that oftentimes the work of this, it happens outside of your awareness. I offer this as an example. During my freshman year, in the spring, I received a call. My father had suffered a stroke. A month later, he passed away. And something funny happened. I had been close to my dad, but with the support of my new community, 1,000 memories that I had of my father, and as an 18-year-old, my newfound capacity for reflection, I discovered that the connection I felt with my father was somehow stronger than ever. It exceeded the boundaries of his own life, and it continues today. Connection is everlasting. Let's talk for a moment about what's at the heart of this kind of connection. This definition comes from my mentor, colleague, and friend, Dr. Ken Ginsberg. He says, love is seeing someone as they deserve to be seen, as who they truly are, not through the lens of behaviors they display or what they produce. In plain terms, this means love is seeing someone, all of them, all of their strengths and abilities, all the capabilities that they haven't discovered yet, and all of the things they do that make you want to pull your hair out. And it means being able to say, I choose to love you through all that, because of all that, all of you. And why do we love our children? So that they might know that they are worthy of being loved. How are you going to do this? By centering connection over outcomes and by choosing quality time over productive time. When they call home, we shift from how did the test go to what's catching your interest? Who are you meeting? What does the community feel like? In about 6 weeks, all of your kids will be coming home for fall break. It can feel like there's a lot of ground to cover, high-yield stuff. You're going to want to talk about their dining dollars, the courses they registered for, their cell phone bill, their summer internships. I want you to resist the urge to cover these high-yield topics. Just be together. Allow for silence. Let them sleep, enjoy a tradition, or create new ones. Keep in mind, they've just been stretched for 6 weeks. They need recovery. And when they learn that coming home means they feel safe, that they add value just by being who they are, they'll choose to return for a lifetime. Next, your child's going to continue to draft answers to the central questions of adolescence and young adulthood, like who am I? One answer involves discovering and expressing what are my values. When they choose to come to you with challenges and dilemmas, you can encourage them along this path by asking them what values they think are at stake, what values are most important to them, and what they think the right thing is to do. As they broaden their experiences and work to build increased self-awareness, their deepest resource can be the loved ones who have known them since the beginning. Darling, you've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Do you remember that lemonade stand you started when you were 11? Of course you care deeply. You're my kid who wanted to rescue that puppy that nobody else wanted. Some of these memories are going to be magic, some are going to fall flat, but they're all part of putting the puzzle together. Next, let's talk about fostering a sense of control. There's perhaps no one better suited to helping your child trust in their growing capabilities and to own their solutions. In those moments when they come to you for support, you can foster their sense of control by checking in to understand what kind of support they need. Honey, I'm here to listen, and I support you. I think you have what it takes to figure this out. If you'd like my advice, I'll share my opinion. You can decide what's best. This is also summarized really helpfully by the phrase, I wish I knew who to credit this to, but do you want to be heard, hugged, or helped? When they come to you with good news, we can shift from, I am so proud of you, to, honey, you deserve to be proud of yourself. You knew this was going to be a challenge, but you made a plan, you asked for help, you put in the effort, and because of that, you reached your goal. Here's the real power move. You know what makes me proud? That you want to share the details of your life with me. You know you can come to me with anything. Letting them know that your source of pride is the connection that you share, and that your connection can withstand good news or bad news helps to build the relationship that they'll treasure when they're 35 and 40. And the final parent and family superpower I'll share with you today is this. You are uniquely positioned to remind your child of two truths: that we are all worthy of helpful and healthy coping strategies, and that healthy coping involves lifelong development, often achieved through connections that count. What do I mean? Recognizing that our old coping strategies are no longer healthy coping strategies comes through experience. Recognizing this is not a sign of failure, but a sign of growth. Your child has been watching you manage stress over the past few decades. Maybe they've been fortunate enough to notice when you've recalibrated. Maybe you're thinking about recalibrating now. Hearing from you can help them to know that they don't have to have it all figured out just yet. And it can normalize the act of paying attention to wellness throughout the lifespan. From professional experience, I also know that parents and loved ones are often the sources of confidence that make it possible for young people to seek professional support when needed, and to trust that asking for help is not a source of shame or stigma, but a sign of growing wisdom and strength. Here, I'd like to reiterate the invitation to contact any of our offices if you believe we can offer connection or guidance. You can find us at wm.edu/wellness or by sending a message to wellness@wm.edu. Thank you, and once again, welcome.